Daily Objective. My turn to host again today. I've got Gil-ad with me. Thanks for joining me, Gil-ad. Today we're going to be talking about weaponry and the kind of weapons which are being used in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Gil-ad is our expert in this, and this is why he's with us today. I'm going in I'm in your guys' position. I'm just going to ask a couple of probing questions and then let Gil-ad kind of go for it. But first, we're going to start with our news update, as always. I think it's day 30 so far. There was something we missed yesterday, which is that the IDF split Palestine in half. So we now have a north and a south Gaza. They're kind of following, I guess, a strategy. So hopefully, this is probably a major kind of step in destroying Hamas in this conquer kind of way. We've seen into Hamas Israel support. The point also, this is clarified what enemies are now. They can't brook any support of Israel clearly, and we do the same. Is with the banned World Remembrance Day in favor of Hamas and in favor of Palestine. There's been a Jewish man who was killed in California. Tech issues, which led to us cutting out a little bit there. Hopefully, they're not going to continue, in which case you might just see me turn off my camera. But in any case, let's get back to it. I'm not sure where I was in the news update. I think we were at the Jewish man being killed in California, and there was a Remembrance Day collector here in Edinburgh who was assaulted at a pro-Palestine parade recently. So people who are claiming that these demonstrations are peaceful, frankly, are talking out of their behind. Anyway, let's get to our main topic because we've been delayed enough by the tech issues. So, Gil-ad, we're talking about weaponry in the conflict. Let's go. Tell me about it.
Awesome. So hello, everyone. Another update is that apparently Hamas just shot a few more rockets at Israel just because I'm sitting here. This is a safe space because it's sort of a basement. There wasn't even any alarm around me right now. I just heard the interception of the Iron Dome, probably in Tel Aviv or something, which is really close to where I am. So yeah, it's just like the kind of the routine that we have already. You just hear the interceptions. It's quite loud, like the glass shakes a bit in the windows, but this is the way it is. So earlier, Morgan, you have called me the expert of weapons. So you should all know that I'm not an expert of weaponry. I did serve in the Israeli military, and I think it allowed me to get a good perspective of what the military is. I'll tell you a bit where I served and what perspective it got me. The first thing that I will tell you is the difference between a rocket and a missile. It would take me a few minutes to get there because I want to introduce myself a bit more, my military background. But you can also already start thinking, if you have an idea, what is the difference between a rocket and a missile, because many people use it interchangeably when it's very different. Okay, so first of all, yes, I've served in the Israeli military. I was drafted, but I was also very excited to serve. And I think I served in the Air Force of the Israeli military, but it's very important to remember that in Israel, it's not there isn't a clear division between the Air Force and the Navy and the Army and the Marines in the same way that there is in the United States. Basically, the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, it's one big organization. If the Navy needs air support, they talk to the Air Force. They don't have their own airplanes. If the Marines, the troops, needs choppers to fly them, they also talk to the Air Force. So it's a whole organization. And I was in the Air Force in a part that that was in charge of intelligent research. So I think it's also something that we can talk about a lot more. But there are like three perspectives on an army. There's the operations, the airplanes flying, dropping bombs, or the soldiers running on the ground, or the tanks, anything that got to do with people fighting or defending. All of that is the operations. That's the biggest part of the army. But they always need to know where to operate. Who's the enemy? What the enemy is going to do? So that's intelligence. Tracking the emails, the communication, taking photos from satellites. All of that is intelligence. But in the middle, there is an integrator between the big operations with all the force and the smaller in size intelligence. And that's the research bodies of the army. They take intelligence, they process it into something that the operations, the strategies in the operations can do something with. So that's where I was. So I've got a good understanding of what the other side has of intelligence, and I also have a good understanding of what Israel has.
So Gilad, just before you go, how long ago were you serving in the military?
So I think it's a 3 years of mandatory service. I did a bit more. I got out 11 years ago, and I kept on doing reserve service up to a year ago, basically. And I just stopped just for all sorts of different reasons. And anything I'm going to say today is not official. I have no connection to what's actually going on right now, other than having good friends and a brother who is serving in the army. So yeah, that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start with the question that I asked you guys. You can also try and answer it. What's the difference between a rocket and a missile? You know?
Yeah. Well, you gave me a clue earlier, but before you gave me the clue, I would probably have used these terms basically interchangeably. If I really thought about it, maybe I could make the distinction. And the distinction that you told me about, which I'm not going to spoil, I think is very interesting about the nature of the two forces, a conflict here. But I'm not. You go ahead. I'm not going to spoil it.
So yeah, so a rocket is basically any piece of something that due to a use of fuel, it ends up flying. So the most basic form of a rocket is that thing that we do in a science experiment, right? We have a bottle, we put some soda, baking soda in it, and somehow it ends up flying. That's a rocket. And it's a stupid rocket. It doesn't have anything telling it where to fly other than the fact that it was aimed somewhere. And that's the thing that Hamas shoots at us. And it's very, very different than a missile. A missile would usually always also be shot by a similar mechanism, but a missile is going to have a navigation system. It's going to have some sort of a system that tells it where it is and how it should keep on correcting its course in order for it to hit the target. And it also gonna have like the wings to alter the trajectory as it flies to actually execute the commands that it needs to do. So it's a very crucial difference. A missile is gonna be very accurate to the point that usually depends what kind of missile. The Scud missile was very famous during the Gulf War. It was shot on Israel from Iraq during the Gulf War 30 years ago, and it can hit like a big building, fairly accurate. Some smaller missiles can be as accurate as a window, missiles shot from all kinds of choppers, for example. A rocket, complete opposite. Very stupid, and it's gonna basically land in the spectrum of depends how the distance is of a neighborhood, much bigger sometimes. When when Hamas shoots rockets from the Gaza Strip towards Tel Aviv, sometimes it's not even sure it's going to hit Tel Aviv, even if there's no Iron Dome. You just do not know where it's going to land. Maybe it's going to land in the sea. It can drift to the levels of 2 or 3 miles away on these kind of distances.
So I guess a key distinction there that we're getting at is that a rocket is almost in a way indiscriminate. You kind of fire, sometimes hear the phrase fire and forget. I don't know if that would apply to a rocket versus a missile, whereas a missile is much more intentional, much more targeted, and discriminating in where it's going to hit and how it's going to hit. Would that be a fair description, do you think?
Yes, and I think this is a great embodiment of the difference between the modern army of Israel and between the guerrilla warfare style organization that is Hamas. When we shoot, when we attack, we know what we want to attack. We are trying to disable a specific ability that our enemy has, and we have to be accurate. But when they shoot, they're not trying to disable an ability that we have as an army. They are just trying to terrorize and to show the world that they can keep on shooting. So they don't care. They have the most simple weaponry. Basically, a rocket is a piece of metal with some fuel on the one hand that launches it, and on the other hand, the warhead, which is basically a bomb that ignites the second it hits something. And what's the other reason that this is a very important difference to know is that we have one specific missile that is very famous that we use pretty much every day in Israel, that we just used 5 minutes ago. And that's the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is a system. It has radars and everything, but the way that it actually intercepts a rocket flying out of Gaza is with missiles. And again, the rocket, a stupid thing that was shot and flies in an arc-like trajectory. After it was launched, no decisions anymore. It's basically a piece of metal flying. On the other hand, what is the Iron Dome? It's a radar. It needs to project exactly where the rocket is gonna be and to calculate the differences and to fly, and as it flies to recognize with a camera where is the rocket that it tries to hit, and then it doesn't hit the rocket, it just explodes when it's really close. So again, the same difference of a modern army investing a lot in each of the missiles that we shoot. I think the cost is like $50,000 for each Iron Dome missile, and we shoot it at, I don't know, $1,000. Like $1,000 is the price of a rocket.
So I'm just gonna there's been a couple of super chats. So $9.99 from Jonathan Honig. Thank you again, Jonathan, and 99 cents from Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie. We always appreciate the support. I think it's a really interesting distinction. Actually, it seems on the surface like almost like a small distinction between a rocket and a missile, but actually, if you think about it, the nature in which a missile is discriminatory and precise and is almost a much more significant feat of kind of human intellect, I think is really significant, especially in the context of how Israel is criticized. So there was a strike on a refugee camp in Gaza a few days ago, which Israel justified by saying that there were Hamas militants and leadership there that needed to be destroyed. And the criticism which was heaped on Israel was that this is indiscriminate slaughter. You know, you're just wholesale wanton slaughter of people. And yet actually, if Israel's method is to use missiles, they're trying to be very precise about what they're doing. They're being really intentional, it would seem to me at least. Whereas the whole nature of Hamas is they just want to destroy. They just want to kill. And that's signified by the fact that they're using rockets. I presume it's also monetarily. I presume Hamas is a fairly kind of ragtag, poor outfit as well. But that they don't care who they kill. As you know, one rocket making through the Iron Dome and landing and blowing up a building, blowing up people. I presume that's just victory in their mind. Do you think that's right?
Yes, I do. And also, I think the fact that most of the rockets that they shoot does not hit anything doesn't like they still win in a sense as long as they are able to shoot rockets, even if we intercept every rocket with the Iron Dome. First of all, people still run to the shelters, even if the rock, like everything is intercepted. People are still terrorized. My mother just celebrated a birthday a few days ago. It's not a time to celebrations, but we still wanted to do something. We went to the cinema. It's a safe space, the cinema. Like you don't have to go anywhere when there is an alarm. But there was an alarm. We are in a safe space. We're watching a movie. It's her birthday. And she was, it wasn't a panic attack, but like she was in distress. It was apparent, even though she's safe. And it happens to so many people here in Israel. So they win because we are in distress. And they also win because they kind of show the world, look, the IDF, Israel, the West, the United States, with all their might, with the aircraft carriers coming here. Oh, yeah, the West and Israel has all of that, but we, Hamas, we can still shoot. So even if nothing happens, they prove something to the world. And I want to say a few words of why they can keep on shooting, even though we have all these abilities. So we all heard about the tunnels, right? And the bunkers, they are underground and everything, but how could they still operate and shoot rockets at us? And the answer is that basically they have many, many thousands of rocket launchers around Gaza. And the rocket launchers, they don't have to take it out of the warehouse and put it somewhere and shoot. The rocket launchers are the simplest things that you can imagine. Basically, it's a rail that has already been pointed to the right direction. Probably it already has even the actual rocket on it. And all they need to do is to go there, like get out of the tunnel, see that everything is fine, press on a button, either on a timer for like 10 minutes or with a remote when they are back in the bunker. It shoots, and that's it. And that rocket launcher, again, a piece of metal that is directed towards Israel in the right angle. That's they only use it once because they know that Israel is gonna attack it.
Mm. And so when it comes to the Iron Dome as well, I think what's interesting to people who aren't in Israel, how effective is the Iron Dome? Because obviously some missiles still get through, and the fact that the Iron Dome is able to intercept as many as they do is an extraordinary achievement. But is it 99% effective? Is it 75% effective? How effective is the Iron Dome at shooting down these rockets when they're coming in?
I think if they actually shoot an Iron Dome missile to intercept, sometimes they even shoot 2 missiles for each rocket to make sure that it's going to be intercepted. So that will reach almost 100% of interception. But sometimes there are other reasons that we do not intercept. For example, if they shoot many, many, many rockets at the same time, there's not enough missiles ready in the Iron Dome batteries. So they need to choose. How do they choose? We have the same system that triggers the alarms. An alarm doesn't play all over Israel when rockets are shot from Gaza. There are an array of radars that identifies for each rocket where it's probably gonna land, and then it calculates. Is it open area? Okay, we don't even need to intercept. Is it a crowded area? We definitely need to intercept and to trigger an alarm over there, so people are gonna run for shelter. But again, a complex system, sometimes something falls between the cracks. We think it's gonna land in an open area, and the wind gives it a bit more push, and it gets to a house at the edge of a neighborhood or something like that.
Okay, that's interesting. And what actually this made me just explain my own ignorance. When was the Iron Dome introduced as a defense system?
Wow, that's a good question for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Is it relatively new, or is it
Like
is it
10 years, at least 10 years.
10 years? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, a bit
So
more.
then,
I think like 12 years or something, from 2012, 11, something like that.
okay, and so I mean, we were talking about rockets and that the impression you're kind of giving is they're very makeshift, right? Daniel's saying that Wikipedia says Iron Dome came in 2011, so about 12 years. That a lot of the weaponry is very makeshift. So is that true? So I can see that for rockets it'd be like that. What about rifles that they're using? Because everyone, it's an open secret. They're getting funding from Iran. Are they getting like shipments of weapons as well, or are they kind of makeshifting rifles and pistols as they go?
So as far as I'm aware, the actual weapons that they use, the rifles, the hand grenades, the RPGs, are like real weapons. They are not manufacturing any gun in the Gaza Strip. How does it get in? All kinds of tunnels. I'll bet a lot of the tunnels are the tunnels that they have with Egypt, because there's a small border with Egypt. I've heard that those tunnels, they are big, that you can drive vehicles in those tunnels. So a lot of it's coming from over there. On the other side, I know that one of the reasons that the rockets do not really hit us too much and do not do a lot of damage is that the rockets themselves are often self-made in the Gaza Strip, to the point that they take out the water pipes. Instead of having like water pipes and sewage pipes, they take them out and they use the actual pipes as the bodies of of rockets that they shoot. I did wanna keep on stressing that point of rocket versus missiles. It's like a case of trying to be accurate and between terrorizing and just shooting wherever you want. So Israel, basically in everything we do, we are accurate. So we don't have, when the Air Force is dropping bombs, it's the house, sometimes even the floor or the window that they aim to, that is gonna get shot. We don't shoot basically any rockets, just towards nowhere. We do have artillery, but it's modern artillery. Modern artillery is very accurate. You want to shoot at a house, it's going to be that house and only that house that is being shot.
I think there's something else here that points to the importance of the kind of moral guilting of Israel, because clearly the equipment disparity is huge between Hamas and Israel. As we're kind of saying, Israel is a modern military, well equipped, well funded. Hamas might be getting funding from outside sources, but they're, like you said, they're making rocket things out of sewage pipes. That's crazy. So the only way that an enemy like that can really, I think, probably continue waging war with Israel is if Israel's pulling its punches, in effect. Would you agree with that? If Israel really wanted to crush these guys because they're so poorly equipped, it could do it decisively.
So wait, I didn't say that they are poorly equipped. They are very well equipped, but in guerrilla warfare. So they're not going to have any tanks. They're not going to have accurate weapons to shoot at the cities of Israel. But when they want to fight with the Israeli army, for example, as we have forces surrounding Gaza, they are pretty good at that. They have the tunnels, they can pop up from everywhere. They have thousands of trained soldiers with very modern gear, like the vests and RPGs with anti-tank missiles. They do have missiles only for that individuals can carry and shoot at things like tanks. So they are very well equipped for guerrilla warfare. And yeah, Israel could take them down, but only with the price of killing a lot of non-combatants. There is no, how could you get to all of those people in the tunnels without like taking down many, many, many more buildings, including hospitals and schools. So we are stopping ourselves because using human shields is a really good protection.
Yeah, absolutely. They know that their civilized opponent doesn't want to kill civilians, and that's how they wage war. So we're drawing to the end. We have another super chat from Nicholas for €10. Thank you so much, Nicholas. We need to keep Razi in the styles which he's accustomed, so all the donations are appreciated. John was donated $3. Thank you very much, John. We've got the reality show coming up in just a couple of minutes, where we're going to be talking about some things adjacent to this. We're going to be talking about the protests going on in London on Remembrance Day, a leader of Hamas making comments that no civilians were killed in Israel, extraordinarily, and things like that. So please come back and join us. And Gil-ad, thanks for talking with me.
Bye-bye. Thanks.